What's up, guys? It is Sam here, and I have an awesome video for you today around Kamala Harris and her dropping out. We're going to take a look at all the data, right? We have a bunch of different factors that we're going to walk through to try to discern how we were able to call this before the media actually did. And if you want to check out the channel, I have about 5 different videos over the past 2 months about talking around this topic. So we're going to touch on some of those things because it's trending at 4 different spots on Twitter, right? We've got it number 1, number 3, number 6, and number 7. So it's trending across Twitter very, very heavily at this moment, right? Like it just refreshed automatically and it's still up there. 3 seconds ago, something got tweeted. So with that being said, if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam. And for those of you that are returning, it's good to freaking see you. Let's get into it. So we have our power rankings here, and this is where we go through the Google search volume, the YouTube search volume, rank their websites, right? I'm just going to flash through these quickly because you can check out the channel if you want to see more details on all these things. But we get to see here that Kamala Harris losing ground on Google, right? She started at 2nd, went to 6th. YouTube, where is she? Again, losing ground. Website, Kamala Harris. She's losing ground, gaining ground. She's been steady or even gaining ground over the last, 3 weeks or so, it looks like, according to her website, which we just did the website ranking if you want to check that out. But at the end of the website ranking video that I filmed yesterday, we actually talk about some of the struggles that's going on in her campaign. And then today she comes out with like, peace, I'm out. This is her website. I'm sorry, this is her Facebook, and she is not doing well on Facebook. Twitter, again, she's not doing super well on there. I mean, she was ranked 9th in October, 7th in November, so she did move up. But one of the things that I actually took a look at was on Thanksgiving. I wanted to see who was actually like trying, who's actually putting in the work, who actually wants to win. In my opinion, if somebody wants to actually win the nomination for president, they are going to be putting in work every day, 7 days a week, period, right? I don't give a shit if it's a fucking birthday or a holiday or what it is. If you're trying to run for a president, I want somebody who's going to work every single day, 7 days a week. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments. I'll use #Stolt, and I can get to them at the end of this video where we go through the Q&A. But this is all the tweets from all the candidates on Thanksgiving, which was a couple days ago. Today is 12/4, I believe. And 12/3, I apologize, where we actually took the total number of tweets over the 24-hour period of the Thanksgiving here in the U.S. And Andrew Yang had number 1, Tulsi had number 2, and Elizabeth Warren had number 3. Pretty much everybody else was in like low single digits on Thanksgiving. Like nobody else was tweeting at all. And that was kind of interesting for me to see, so not putting up a lot of work in there. But what I want to show you the actual data that I'm looking at. So what we have here is Google Trends. Google tracks every search on Google as well as on YouTube. And if anybody goes to one of these, because Google also does search that they kind of like outsource or license to other companies. So if you have a website and you want to have the Google actually rank your stuff because their search algorithm is way better, even though it's your database, you can actually have Google do that. So across the web, we have Kamala Harris, and if you look at this, there's no discernible trend, right, over the last 90 days. She's been sitting down, there's been a couple spikes, and then we see, right, around the debate, she had a nice spike of attention. And it looks like maybe even slightly up, right, from the couple days before the debate to the couple days after the debate. It looks like there's a slightly higher amount. And then just this is, I'm going to talk about this. Remember this spike here, right? So it was the 28th, and then she started gaining search volume on YouTube. Let's take a look at the 30-day. Again, we see a spike of attention here over the past 30 days. But what's kind of interesting is when you look at the last 7 days, bam, nothing. um, except for this spike here, and this is when she announced that she would be dropping out or suspending or whatever the terminology she used for her campaign. So then we took a look at YouTube. Same thing over a 90-day period. A 90-day period on YouTube, it does look like there's a discernible trend in just the volume of output, right? Because we see a lot more searches. Hopefully you guys can see this okay. There's a lot more searches in the first half of this 90-day period and then the second half. And now what we're looking at is Google Trends, the YouTube search volume. So Google and YouTube are the #1 and #2 biggest sites on the planet. So we're using these as factors because that's where people are versus a poll, right? Where you might have several hundred or a couple thousand people responding to a poll that, and I've used this analogy where you have you have somebody watching you and they're observing your behavior, right? Your behavior is going to be different if somebody's standing right behind you watching you versus if nobody's around, your behavior tends to be different. So we want to understand what people's behavior is, the most authentic, genuine way of doing that. And by watching where people go, where their attention is, we get to actually see the most authentic representation of what America is actually interested in. And that is why we do these. So this is the 90-day. Let's take a look at the 30-day and then go into the 7-day. The 30-day, it looks like she's actually had a little bit of bump here, and that's because this spike right here is from the debate on the 21st. Now this, remember what we just talked about in the last one, right? You see a spike here that's more discernible on YouTube for searches, right? Like it actually looks like she's gaining ground. So I'm going to explain this in just a second when we get into Social Blade and we get into those numbers. But first, we have Alexa.com. So Alexa.com is they do like website engagement and different statistics on different websites. So they do that across the globe and they rank websites. So we pulled up Kamala Harris's website here, and if we just come down here, so this is the global ranking, 115,000th, so pretty high. High is not good. High means that you're not as relevant. Low is more relevant. So in the global level, this is the only way we have the graph here. I have to actually purchase something if I want to see the US over time. But we see that there was a turning point where she started losing a great deal of attention, which is around September 27th, that's kind of interesting. But we just see this like trend over the last 65 days, it looks like, because this is a 90-day period. Over the last 65, maybe 70 days or so, she's just been down and to the right. That's not the direction you want to see if you're trying to win. She went from 65th thousandth down to 115th and a half. Crazy. In the US, she's ranked 32nd out of all sites. So for perspective, right? You're like, well, what does 32nd thousandth mean if I don't know what the other candidates are? First of all, you can go back to the channel, check that video out in full detail. But just for reference, Andrew Yang, who is #1 for his website out of all the candidates that are running, Andrew Yang is ranked like 3,200. So 10x more popular than Kamala Harris's website. So what does that mean? Well, if you have more people to your site, not only is that an indication of interest because people are actually going to the website to find information about you or donate money, but if somebody goes to your website, you actually get tracking data. This is from like the social media marketing side of things, but assuming that the campaigns know what they're doing when it comes to social media marketing. But you have somebody come to your website, and you can optimize your website to first of all get the response that you want, but second of all, you get to get tracking data. So you can put like a Google Pixel in the background, so it tracks the traffic that comes to the website and builds an audience, so that when you're running ads on Facebook, you can run them to that collective of the audience that comes to your website, so you can have more effective ads. But also, people do donate, so you get more money, right, if you have a higher ranking, because there's just more fucking people coming to your website. And the residual side of that is that once people donate money, you have their contact and email information, so that every week you can send them another email and be like, give me money. So that's where I feel like we're going to have a killer quarter for Andrew Yang, because his website's like 2 times more popular than the next closest person, which is pretty crazy. So anyway, The next is where we jump into a couple different factors on Social Blade. Social Blade is a social media profile tracking site. So right here we have a YouTube channel for Kamala Harris, and it tracks the different statistics on their site. So hopefully you guys can see this. It's pretty small print, but I'm gonna try to be very detailed in my explanation. But check this out. So we're just gonna compare. This is over, I think, a 13-day period. We see that we're going to look at subscribers here, and she's in double digits, so she's got like 40 to 50. You know, the average over this period, including the day she had 0, was probably like, I don't know, 35 or something like that. And then we look at this period after, and she's well into the hundreds to 200s, right? So what happened around the 27th? I'm going to get into that in a second. Remember, we had 2 dates. We had Google also showed this, and YouTube search volume also showed this. So we're seeing on her YouTube channel that she saw a spike of attention. Like, if it was an average of 35 for the first 7 days, and then like say 190 average-ish, and this is just eyeballing it, maybe 190, 200, actually probably closer to 200 for the average for subscriber growth versus 35. So what is that? Like a 6.5x increase in terms of subscribers per day on average after the 26th. What happened on the 26th? We're gonna get to that in a second. Profile views or video views on her channel also had a 10x roughly increase or more. Look at this. The profile views for the first half of the 13-day period were, 4 figures. Now they're all 5 figures, right? We have, say, an average of 5,000 views per day down to, and then on the 26th, after the 26th, they all jumped to, say 30 to 40,000 on average per day. A giant increase, nearly a 10x increase. So we're going to get to that in just a second in terms of what happened, but let's take a look at some more data first. This is, again, Social Blade. This is Kamala Harris's Twitter, again. So this tracks a little bit different things. On here we have, hopefully you can see the number of tweets here, but this is the tweets per day on the right-hand side. And over here is the number of followers. So we see that over the first 7 days or so, she had several days here with over 1,000, right? 800, 900, 800. And then after that, she doesn't have any that are over 1,000. So that's kind of interesting. So it doesn't look like the increase in attention on Google search volume, YouTube search volume, and the YouTube views and subscribers is carrying over to Twitter that we just saw in the other parts of Social Blade. The next factor, and we're also going to take a look at Instagram in a second, but the next factor is Kamala Harris's Facebook page on Social Blade. And the things that Social Blade tracks for Facebook are the likes and the number of people talking about them. So the number of people talking about them is like an aggregation of like mentions, tags, comments. It's got like, I think about 4 or 5 different factors that Facebook puts together to say that this many people are talking about somebody. It's a little cloudy, but it does kind of give you an interest of like what's happening. And if we look at this, first of all, we're going to look over here in the black. The number of people talking about her in the first 7 days or so, say an average of about 100,000, right? Because these are over 100,000 plus a couple more days at like 70,000. So the average is probably like 90,000 or something like that, 95,000. And then we look over here and it's substantially less. Not any days over 100,000. And we see a lot more negatives, right? We see a lot of people leaving. She's losing likes. This is likes on her Facebook page. She's losing likes over the last month. She's losing about 34 on average per day, and over the past month. So this is monthly averages. So I don't know how far back the average actually is. It doesn't tell me that. If you guys know, let me know down below in the comments and use the hashtag Stolt so that we can get into the Q&A at the end of these videos, and I can find that and let everybody know. I'd appreciate it. Let's go over to Instagram real quick. So to just recap real quick before we get into Instagram, she's losing ground in a lot of different places, right? On this is again Social Blade, but now we have her Instagram profile pulled up. Again, same exact thing. She's just losing ground here. There's a bunch of red here. People are not following her. Interesting. All right. And when you take a look at this culmination of the data around Kamala Harris, and you see that directional trend, and then when I don't really actually pay attention to what any of these candidates say, but what I do on my phone here, when I scroll through, right, the news feed here, the I don't click on any political articles or videos or anything, but I do see kind of like the thumbnail if it's on YouTube and the title, and I will read those and glance at them, and then I pay attention a lot to what you guys are saying in the comment section or they're talking about on Twitter, and I can see or get this kind of like sense of like this building this intuition around a sentiment of what's happening with people. And we see that there's been a lot of news coming out around trouble in her camp. And we see like, I think the biggest one is this, because if she's built up a team and you can't support the team of people that you've built to run your campaign and help you run your campaign because you don't have the money, that like her website's lost about 50% of the traffic in terms of the popularity. And that's on a global basis. I don't know what it is in the US because I can only see one data point. I don't know what it was over the last 30 days. But we can clearly see the direction of where it was going. And that's what gave me the ability to even just talk about this in terms of her potentially dropping out, which we talked about in the video that we just released. But I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. Use the hashtag stole, just like Boosie Nemo did here 23 minutes ago in reference to the website ranking video. And you predicted Harris was on the verge of dropping out based on the data. Who's next? Klobuchar, Castro, or Booker? And then Patty Pilot mentions Castro is what my gut is telling her. So let's ask you guys, what do you think out of what Boosty Nemo is mentioning here is Klobuchar, Castro, and Booker? What are your thoughts? If I'd like to know your thoughts, go put it down below. Use the hashtag stole, and then what I'm going to do is, based on the intuition of what I'm seeing, and if we're just going by the rankings without having any understanding of like where they are money wise, right? Without more, because sometimes I can see this in the headlines, even if I don't look at the article or like the opinion of who wrote the article, by that headline I can get some data points. So what I'm looking at, if I had to guess out of these three people, I would say probably Amy. But remember, I don't have any context for what's going on with these things, but I would say Amy, possibly Castro. There'd be like a toss-up between those two. Amy has just recently started to have a teeny bit of increase, where Castro has just started to have a teeny bit of decrease. So those two, and then right behind that, I think it's good. I think you're mentioning the top three people that have probably the highest likelihood of dropping out, assuming that one of the other candidates in the top 5 to 6 or 7 doesn't like do something unintelligent or say something stupid, and like they just get so much negative attention that they just leave because they're like, fuck, I don't want to deal with all this criticism. I don't know. I'm not sure, but Amy and Castro, generally speaking, are 10 and 11. Like they're out of the 11 candidates, they're just not ranking super well relative to all the other candidates. And Patty, you could be right. Time will tell. Oh, look at this. I left myself a comment. Nice. That's how I get more comments on my videos. I just leave myself comments. This is from Ankit Sharma. Good to see your comment again, brother. I appreciate it. Look, we know you aren't set in who you are picking. We know you are just reporting facts, but it wouldn't hurt getting the math hat as an appreciation of data-driven approach instead of opinionated. Just saying, hey, he does have a good point. If you're watching this, I did just quit my job. I make a tiny bit of money from YouTube. I'm going to do an earnings update video in a little bit, but I make about 150 cash between 100 and to 150. 150 would be like probably the max I've made from like YouTube and like the other referral affiliate type links and stuff like that. But my intention is to continue to put out content here and across the web to try to get like America and the media to realize and understand that like there's a better way of doing things, or at least we should have this conversation. But the point of me quitting was I have about 20 months worth of savings set aside. I know a hat's probably only like 20 bucks or 30 bucks, but I personally uh, don't want to. I don't know if you can see this behind me, but there's no fucking furniture in my house. Like I don't. I'm super minimalistic, and I don't want to spend the money on it. If somebody has a fucking hat and they want to send it to me, I'll fucking wear it. I don't care. But I personally just don't want to spend the money on it because I just quit. I don't know what the future is going to hold or where I'll be. And so I don't have that stability of the income coming in, so I'm not sure, and I just don't want to spend any additional money that I don't need to. By the way, traveling is actually going to be cheaper for me than staying in my apartment. Pretty crazy. So thank you so much for the comment. I do appreciate it. I do think that would be something that could. The data is where we should look for the answers, not on an opinion. In my opinion. So thank you so much for that comment. And then if you want your comment read, again, just use hashtag sold. This is from SLT. Yang did recently say he liked Biden more than any other fellow candidate. I forgot exactly where and when. That's interesting. Star Trek Theory. Again, what's up, Star Trek Theory? I appreciate your support. Look up Biden in the wacko hearings. Is wacko a person? Or is that a place or something? Biden is a viper. Could be. I don't see how Biden could possibly get the nomination. I don't feel like Biden should probably get the nomination based upon all of the stuff that's going on with him. If you just that I looked into for a fraction of a second, and it's just like there's so much evidence against Biden that I'm like, how if anybody wants like the best candidate for the collective of America, I don't think there's a super great argument. And remember, I'm not like paying attention to what they say, but I just don't feel like there's a super awesome argument behind him being the nomination. Just my thoughts on that. It would be super interesting to see Tulsi and Yang. That would be super interesting to see those two to go together. Wherever, if Yang's president and she's VP or the other way around. I think either way, that would be a super interesting combination to watch. I would like to see that. That would be super interesting to watch. Let's just jump down here to one more comment from Ken, and this is from, I'm not going to, VireZ. I apologize for slaughtering your name. Okay, I think you may have missed something. Early on, Yang was going on every show and podcast possible. This constantly churned out a lot of material to be consumed, and it kept building. There were daily new events, it seemed. As of a month ago, with greater resources, the focus has been more on Iowa and New Hampshire and less on national reaching news shows and podcasts, etc. This, in turn, lessens his online activity nationwide. Good point. Good point. And then Serpent leaves a comment, and I'm going to touch on this really quickly before I actually get into Serpent 77's comment. But I think that literally, based upon like what I know and like what I kind of understand about the internet and the collective attention of what's happening online, let me tell a little story. Or an analogy. If you're trying to sell a hot dog or hamburgers, right, and you got your little stand and you're like pulling it along, would you prefer to be in front of Walmart where the traffic's like going into the store, or would you prefer to be in the back where there's nobody fucking there? I think you need to have a blended approach. I think you need to have a hybrid approach, correct? But what could be happening is for that example, first of all, you want to be where the fucking traffic is. Where is that traffic? Right at the front door of Walmart. They're not by the trash in the back. So that being said, what happens? Physical world, a barn hall meeting or whatever they're called, town hall meetings or something. There's, I don't know, whatever. We'll say there's 5,000 people there. Cool, awesome, right? And then you have several of those who tweet or talk or post about that they were there. But going on a platform with one of the many YouTubers that support him can garner the attention of let's just say tens of thousands of people versus, and then there's a residual effect of that, just like there's a residual effect of doing the town hall meetings. So, and I'm going to talk about what he can do to actually amplify this, so you guys can share this with him or tag him or tweet about it to him or something. But that the amplification effect online is that YouTuber, right, will interview or do whatever, and that could be a 7-minute thing. Like when you're driving from one place to another place, it could literally be like, okay, let's set it up. We got a 20-minute drive. Let's do a 7-minute fucking 2 7-minute interviews before we get to the next place. So he does a 7-minute interview and then goes on to the next one and goes on to the next one. So what those will do is increase the awareness online, and that YouTuber is probably going to have a better appreciation for Andrew Yang because they actually talked to him and saw him, that they will more than likely make more videos around him, talk more positively around him, share his shit on other fucking platforms, and increase the awareness probably a lot more than what's happening in the physical town hall meetings, right? It works. You literally just mentioned it in here, Ken, and I think that's an awesome insight because we've seen a downtrend slightly in the attention around Yang. The internet is the thing to win, in my opinion, not the physical world. You have to play a blended approach, but I think instead of a 80-20, where 80% is in the physical world and 20% is online, I think it should be the exact opposite of that. And getting out on the messages now. What could you do? Because you do want to focus on both of these things. Film every single town hall, every single question. Take that, put it up on YouTube. Take the insightful comments or things that you say, take that, make that into a meme. Take that little clip that's 43 seconds long where somebody asks you a question and Yang responds in an intelligent or witty way. Take that, put that up on YouTube, but also take that, put it up on Instagram. Take that, put it up on Facebook. Take that, put it up on your blog. All of this stuff should be happening if he wants to win. And I don't know, like, I'm sure he does, and some of these things probably cost money or whatever, but if you take a look at the macro view where money is being spent, you're going to get more attention doing that because you're already doing your town hall where there's 5,000 people there, and I don't think 5,000 people actually show up to town halls, but you, or whatever they're called, I don't know, fundraising or what, I'm not sure, I don't follow what's actually happening in the field, but if you can capture that, you're already doing it, so take that and put it online. And you could hire somebody to do this, right? If you're raising, I think he raised like $1 million the other day in a 24-hour period. It's like 750,000 or something like that. Take 50 grand, take 85 grand, take 100 grand, pay somebody to follow you along the trail and just do this. Pay 2 people, 50 grand each. Like, hey, I'm gonna be at this town hall meeting. I need a videographer. I'll pay you 10 grand to video blah 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 and edit the stuff and put it out for me, right? And send me the clips in a Dropbox. I'll pay you 10 grand to do it, right? And then, or 5 grand, and you would get a shitload of people. You probably don't even have to pay a lot of people if you just asked. I'm referencing him. But let's talk about Serpent 77's comment right now. I absolutely agree with this. He is not getting the Yang Gang pile-on effect right now because you can't really pile on a TV commercials. True. That's why, like, the internet's the thing, not fucking the physical world, not old school shit. I think the traffic we're seeing now isn't being artificially inflated as much by these pile-ons, and this is probably the true measure of organic growth that is still on an upward trajectory, but being balanced out right now due to lack of pile-ons. I suspect as we reach early voting debates or early voting dates, he'll start pulling out more stops to ramp up. Could be super interesting. That could be a strategic move, potentially. I agree. His long game seems to be to keep him in the public's eye, then spike right before the early states hit the polls to try and pull off an early lead and carry that momentum through the rest of the primary. Okay, so that $1 million, I just touched on it up above. Take that $1 million and you can hire 4, 6, whatever it takes, full-time people to literally just film everything that he does and put that online for the world to see. You need to get the message out, which means the more people you can get in front of, the better, right? And you're like, well, the one-on-one is super valuable because that's going to be fantastic. Film it and put it online so everybody gets to see the authenticity in the interaction in the real world. It works. And I think this is what if he went through and did this and hired 6 full-time people to just film him all the time, whenever he's out in the field or talking to anybody and the questions, and even if he just went through and talked a little bit about his strategy, that's going to get chatter for the YouTubers to talk about, which is going to increase his attention, increase the amount of awareness he has, increase the amount of people who are talking about him, increase the amount of attention that he has on a collective basis. Some of these things, like, maybe think might seem like out there a little bit, but like, I don't I don't really do things like normal people do. Like, I just do stuff online. You know, I go to the gym, and that's I don't do a lot of like other shit, and I travel a lot. But that's, you know, I just pay attention to where people's attention are online and try to understand what is happening, not necessarily based on my opinion, but just what the data says, and see where that goes. So with that being said, I appreciate your time. Don't forget to subscribe and press that bell notification so you can get notified next time I post a video. Peace. And jump over to Twitter and say what's good. It's actually easier to get a response back on Twitter because the comment section on YouTube, comments get lost. The way they do their notifications and stuff, it's just not as helpful as like a Facebook or a Twitter, but Twitter is definitely probably the easiest way to like get dialogue if you want to ask a question or have any information or whatever the case is. So I appreciate you guys, and I will talk to you soon. Peace out.